Okay, so I think I heard what I needed to hear from something else I was just watching to get this video started. I have some thoughts that I've typed up that I can incorporate here. You can also read them. But what I end up reading out loud, I guess we'll see. I was just listening to something. It had a very intriguing title. And I know that nobody's here yet while this is live, but people might see it afterwards. I would hope that you will stick with me at least for a little while, um, if not for the entirety of this or all at once or a little at a time. And we'll have a chat. But I'll mention it because yeah, it jumped out to me as an interesting topic. When the body finally trusts what stillness really is. And that video was just saying something, and I had an immediate thought. And it isn't something that I mean, when I say that, I mean to say that it's not something I've thought about a lot, but as humans, in the human experience, in the human body, I think all of us probably do think of it at times. And essentially, it is around just a moment. She knows. It was around the idea of the mind getting in the way of the nervous system and what it's trying to do. Now, first of all, I guess the question would be, what is it trying to do other than protect us? Um, but I kind of feel like, the mind is going to always be there. I'm going to wait just a few minutes, actually. I'm going to try and hold on to this thought and wait a few moments, see if anybody tunes in. It's a very quick few moments because um, I do realize that some people may see this afterwards. Sorry about that. But me to be being distracting. I don't think I'm coming down with something, but yeah, it's kind of a good picture. Anywho, my thought initially was that, like I say, the mind's always going to be a part of it. It's as much a part of us as other systems that we have in our body. Um, and our mind, like I say, our mind's part of it. See what I mean? Just kidding. But so I don't think it's about getting the mind out of the way to focus on which I guess is more of more about the body, but again, interconnected. Um, which is why I feel like it's important to uh, focus on both. I guess focus on both, and yeah, I don't know really what else to say on it or how else to say that or make sense of it, but hopefully that does make sense. It's kind of like, yeah, I'm tempted to, and sometimes, and I probably am not the only one, and whether it's a positive thing or something to work on, I don't know. But I do sometimes I'll hear something in a video. By the way, sorry about the ASL video I did the other day that maybe the screen wasn't adjusted properly for some of it, but and the audio was a little iffy. But anyway, um, I'll sometimes do that. I'll see a video and I'll hear something that sounds odd, doesn't make sense, whatever, and it'll sometimes turn me off from watching the rest of it. It's true, and I hope I don't do that for people very often. If I do, I guess what I'd like to say is because, like I say, I can't be the only one that does that. I guess what I would like to say is that um, I hope that you will at least try to look past those, that, if it's often, you know, maybe I would tell you, listen to yourself. If it's just once or twice, I think, yeah, like I say, maybe I need to challenge myself in that way, work on not doing that so quickly. And from what I see when I'm live streaming, it sometimes, people aren't really always, aren't saying, unless they're saying something nice, which I mean, in a way is a preference, is the kind of stuff I'd rather hear, and it's kind of what this shirt is about, and I'm glad that it reads properly on the screen. But I do feel like, um, knowing my own self and my worth, I do, and not trying to sound egotistical, but just like I say, knowing self, I do feel that I'm worth looking past once or twice, if because misunderstandings happen too. How I'm saying something may not be, or how I'm meaning something might not be how you hear it sometimes. The other thing I can say is that, like, sometimes when I have that feeling, um, like, oh, that was silly of them to say. I don't think I can watch them anymore, or whatever. Um, it's one of the things is that, unfortunately, I sometimes think, oh, well, they're not very intelligent to be saying something like that. Um, but not to toot my own bugle, is how I say it. Um, I am quite intelligent. I am. I Part of it honestly could be being on the having Asperger's, but also, and even though sometimes I don't feel like I'm high functioning, and that's what it is. It's high functioning autism essentially, and I know some people have qualms or whatever about the language used, about those things, but it's one of those things. I think that there isn't necessarily a right or a wrong, but it might be more so as there's a preference that somebody has, you know. But I'm very diverse. I soak up a lot of knowledge like a sponge, and you know, I this is a great introduction to me if somebody had been watching this while live, but afterwards it's fine too, I guess. But well, they've been rolling for a little under 8 minutes, but basically, yeah, when I'm doing these, I am thinking on the spot, and sometimes I'm a bit more. Uh, I try to be a bit more precise in what I'm saying, and other times it just flows out. And some people could say, well, maybe you could be scripted. I actually don't think a lot of YouTubers, whether they're interviewing someone or otherwise, are all that scripted. Maybe in their head, but I think a lot of people know when that it's easy to tell when somebody's kind of just reading something. Um, some people may not mind, and some people would. They'd feel like they were either being read to, and some might even go as far as to think, I'm not a child anymore. I don't need story time. Some would find it nostalgic. Other people might feel like it's being preachy, even if it's not religious. I don't know. So, and the thing is I'm not super likely to stick to what I've written anyway. I would probably, either lose my spot in what I'm reading, or get distracted, um, in thought, mine, or something somebody else says. So I think just rolling with it and being a bit free spirited is really the way to go with it. So, but again, everybody has their style, and honestly, I do a little bit of, a little bit of both as far as when I'm live streaming. I mean, that's how I am in a lot of ways. Like example, like I just mentioned, and I've mentioned other ones recently, the autism spectrum. Like, I'm not at the how do I put it? The uh, I'm on the I am on the higher functioning side of it, right? But not as much as some might be. I'm really probably more in the middle, maybe a little bit beyond the middle, closer to the higher. But in some ways, I also think, who cares? You know what? I'm just gonna be me. You know. Um, there was somebody there very briefly, and I was, you know, rambling away on a topic, but whatever. Um, it was right around when I said something about kind of like, it was to talk about both. But you know what? It wouldn't it have been kind of amusing or funny, but kind of also disappointing. Uh, but maybe they'll make their way back here. If what they thought is, well, there's two videos I wanted to watch. You said both. Okay, I've been here for a few seconds. I'll go watch the other one now. And then it's which one was the most intriguing. Hopefully, if they're meant to, they'll make it back here. Um, yeah, I felt it was a little bit too early for lunch, although the morning is going at a pretty decent pace. It's um, it's almost 11 o'clock, so yeah. Um, I don't know if my title is a good one or not, to be honest. In the moment, it felt right, and I was kind of semi-inspired, but it's also something I've kind of often thought too. But I realize how it might be read, might be misperceived, and wouldn't want that. Part of me thinks I typed it, people can read it, what I have on the side here. And part of me thinks, no, people would rather probably hear it out loud, hear it, process it spoken. Um, and um, truth be told, there's probably a lot of people that use YouTube that have some sort of literacy difficulty, whether that's dyslexia or, which I think is a big main one, or I'm not sure what, some sort of for me, it's interesting. I don't really read books anymore, and I mean, I could, but I'd really have to put effort into it. And it's not because I can't read. I don't know. Um, Maybe it's actually something to the effect of, I should really be doing audiobooks, to be honest, but maybe it's something to the effect of, when I'm holding the physical book, I feel like it's the whole thing I have to process. And that feels a bit much for me. Um, I remember when I was young, I used to go to the library activities that they had for kids when I was a kid. Uh, but also, um, yeah, basically get books quite often. I was like, oh, I like the cover of that. Oh, that's a cool title. Oh, that's a classic. Whatever, whatever. I don't know how many my parents picked out. And I'd come home and I'd, you know, empty my bag onto the floor and or my bed or whatever. And sometimes I'd stay up until the wee hours reading, or at least looking through the books. And yes, that a lot of them were kids' books at that time. As I got older, they kind of remained that, but also, and we don't talk about the big controversy kind of in that area lately, but uh, 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 that a lot of people are talking about. But it wasn't as much of a thing when I was younger, anyway. Um, which is maybe why I was a bit of a late bloomer. But yeah, and then and there was many a nights where I would read a book, and I used to be a night owl, so even being online a lot, I would still do that too. Now I prefer online reading, mostly in the sense of engaging and interacting, but not entirely. Um, yeah, I really struggle to. There was somebody brief there. They're like, "Oh yeah, there was something I wanted to read online." I remember now. Yeah, no, it could be. It could be. Little things can kind of remind us of things, and not necessarily bad, unless it means that they they abruptly, after only being here briefly, leave the video. Um, but which of these side thoughts do I want to start with? I don't want to have to jump around too much and be like, did I read that one? Did I read this one? No, yes, no, whatever. Um, so let me just take a quick look here. Because, yeah, the other thing is while people are coming in here while this is live and listening to me, they may or may not look at the chat. They may or may not, they may just be here to listen and, you know, um, or to listen and possibly contribute, but not add to that also reading. So, I mean, everybody's different. Everybody has different kind of abilities that they do, and different ways that they do things. Um, yeah. So, huh? I guess that's a name. I'm a little bit curious to see what that person's cooking. They're like, join me and let's make dinner. Although it's morning, well, late morning here. So let me just maybe look through these thoughts that I have here and read them out loud because, like I say, I do want you know to to speak to a diverse audience. Like I say, with different preferences and abilities. So for the most part, so because I'm a diverse person, so I'm sure that we can always find something to talk about. Uh, we will likely like each other and get along, and I say that to pretty much each and every one of you. Um, let's be good to each other. We all want nice interactions, and that's what this video is about, just like any of the other ones. Um, I mean, I think I might actually take out some of those comments simply because I also put them in the description, and as far as like following a bit of a written thing, um, it'll make it. Whoops! It'll make it easier to do that. Um, and then my own. So um, I did realize too that in the title, um, I didn't get the full question in, but I said it was a big question, and so maybe that had you curious. And you can certainly see that it's in the description. But just in case, for whatever reason, the description doesn't show later, um, basically, you know, it's amazing. I think a lot, but um, I'm not hugely the busiest person these days for the most part. And I'm surprised sometimes to think that I do content pretty much daily. Not always at the same times, but mostly during the day, sometimes evening. But there's that consistency, that I have and that you've, you know, likely come to uh, find with me. And but yeah, sometimes it's like, what am I talking about? It's like, how am I finding the ideas? I'm also watching stuff, and it's not that I talk about absolutely everything, and I think everything has to be a topic, but I don't know. Anywho, what kinds of content do you often like to watch on YouTube? I also kind of got a bit more specific with that question to ask, what were you looking for specifically when you came to YouTube today? Um, let's chat or sing about it. And I guess when I say sing, I mean I'd be singing, because if you're singing, I wouldn't know it. Unless, of course, you post videos of yourself doing it. No need to mention me. I know I'm on, doing this on YouTube, and it's, public platform, and maybe that's what I want. And it'd be a lie if I said I didn't, somewhat. But maybe what you could do, suggesting that you could say, if you decide to post videos, whether it's your first time or not your first time doing so, you could say that somebody inspired me to sing about what's on my mind or what I was browsing. It's an interesting It's an interesting thought, really. Um, and the reason why I put it, honestly, is because I'm musical, and I got a new instrument recently. So it's kind of like, unlike those who aren't musical or aren't yet, who could come to me for lessons, it's kind of like you don't have to necessarily just talk about it. I can sing about it. But yeah, if you do post a video, like you say, you could just say that you were inspired by a fellow YouTuber to do this. If anybody asks, maybe that's where I'm comfortable. If somebody asks, don't necessarily, I'm not trying to sound bossy. I'm just trying to say what my preference would be, and hopefully you would respect it. You don't say, if anybody's curious, that just ask me. But if they ask on their own choosing, on their if they themselves are the one who think to ask, sure, you could tell them. Uh, I don't think they'd work in comments, and they wouldn't likely find under G and C, because that is pretty common. They could find under leading, healing, arts, cheering for each other. Um, I heard something said in the video that I thought was kind of poignant as well. It's not about trying to be or look cool. It's about being yourself, being natural, and um, but it's likely cool, and hopefully others agree. Uh, and then when you post, bringing diverse content and positive feedback. Though I said what I said in the title, which it's only 22 minutes in, didn't take me that long to get to this. Uh, though I said what I said in the title, the first part, I'm really glad that you're here. You can be a positive impact, a light. You can let yourself be here and part of this great live stream experience. Nobody really has been here though, and I'm not too sure. I don't feel, although some people do and get away with it, or at least for a while. I don't know. I don't feel like and I also don't know what I'd be hearing. I don't, it's not like it's just my built playlist. And even still, if it was on YouTube, there might be advertisements. Um, but I can't really play the YouTube. I mean the radio in here, because yeah, YouTube wouldn't want that. Um, so I'd just be sitting here quiet, waiting for people to tune in. So I think I'll just keep this short. Um, and do some other things, laundry to bring up, lunch to have, things online to do, and such. But I just want to say, and I don't think it's been super obvious with this one, and hopefully it never is. But I've started to realize that. Let's see what is the desired reaction now, because I did that after those blips. That maybe sometimes I seem like I'm forcing people to interact. It's like, they tune in, and pretty quickly I'm saying, feel free to, don't be shy, feel free to join the chat. That's really just me being welcoming, me saying, if you'd like to, I'd like for you to, um, and we can have a nice chat. Um, it's never meant to be. And I heard this in a video. It was that one I was mentioning earlier, actually, which isn't the one that I was mentioning in the title, and I don't know whether I mentioned that or not. But basically, she. Oh no, actually, it wasn't that video either. It was. I don't think it was. The video I'm actually thinking it was. I'm not entirely sure. I didn't watch all of it. The audio wasn't great, but I've seen her videos before, and the audio was better then. So, um, either way, I heard it and it resonated with me. Convo isn't meant to be forced on here, but invited. I'm going to say that again since somebody just tuned in. I just want to say that convo isn't meant to be forced, but invited, welcomed. As long as it's kind and and I see that you like that, so I appreciate it. Yeah, and like I say, I'm a diverse person, so I'm sure we'll find something we could talk about. Um, I read some of the things that I put at the side here, which is also in the description, same thing. And I'm curious why, if you meant to unlike that, why you liked it. Okay, thank you. um, but yeah, so I'm not going to read that part again. You're welcome to. And I've at the moment utilized I've done the ideas that I have in this video. But I guess the other thing that I could mention while you're reading and possibly typing something to me is I've mentioned it a couple times on here, not often. It may sound like a celebration thing. That's interesting. It may sound weird or silly, or it may not, to say on YouTube, I don't care if I have a million views. Oh, we got 2 likes or 2 viewers, and the other like went away. But again, that seemed to be a mistake the first time because you put it back. So anyway, either that or you're doing it based on what I'm saying. Because yeah, thank you. Because in the corner there, um, that's one reaction that it doesn't have is a thumbs up that I've noticed. I am curious if you've ever been to this channel before and how you came across it if you haven't. But yeah, just to kind of elaborate on the thought about, lots of people say quality over quantity. Um, I try and post every day, and and I'm hoping that's reaching the people it's meant to reach. However, um, yeah, like I said, I don't really care if I get even hundreds of views. As long as I have a few people that are liking what I'm putting out there, resonating, possibly wanting to chat about it, then I'm doing something right. I'm doing something that matters to those people. Um, I think that some people like I have a follower, I'm not gonna say who, but and I couldn't believe. But then G said that, well, it was a video from 10 years ago. He may have even been the first person to ever post it on YouTube because there's something that I saw that made me think that because G knows what that video was. Anyway, in 8 days, he had like thousands of likes, thousands of comments, and it was like an 8-minute video. And I don't mean to be mean to him at all. It didn't really seem to be saying a whole heck of a lot. Um, but um, I mentioned this. Oh, he had said, that looks like the viewer left. I hope it wasn't him. Usually he'd say something. At least it looks like they left. Maybe they haven't. Anyway, he had said something about, if he doesn't get 1,000 subscribers or doesn't get a certain number of subscribers in a certain amount of time, he was going to die. That's called an exaggeration, first of all. Second of all, why does that matter so much? Like so many people, not everybody, but so many people on here, they're all about, how many views did you get? It's like views are just somebody clicking in. They may have been there for a few seconds, you know, and they may have came back, they may not have. But where the real substance is have they liked something that you said? And I noticed it was unknown again, but again, this might be a method of saying, "Oh, I like that thought." Ooh, yeah, I'm thinking that's the case. No need to be shy, right? I'm obviously a friendly person, so feel free. And if the chat's not working, I don't know why. I'm using the laptop. It usually always works. I'm seeing what I put there. But anywho, basically, yeah, like, I don't know. Like, that's where the real substance is. in the community that we build here and the communication that we have with each other. And I think I've just seen a heart in the corner of my eye there, and in the center of my chest. But yeah, so basically, and a message just came in on this device. But I'll look at that later. But yeah, I don't know if there's anything else to say on that. So if there's something you'd like to talk about or a song you'd like to hear me sing and perform, feel free to put it in the chat. But yeah, like I say, that's really where that thought is about the numbers. And I really feel like none of us should, again, not trying to sound bossy, but I just don't think it makes sense for, and I never do it. That's something I never do, I think, is, I might look at the numbers connected to a video, but I don't let it dictate whether I want to watch it or not. I look at the thumbnail or the still, and it's like, does this person intrigue me in one way or another? Does the topic intrigue me in one way or another? If so, I click in and I watch till my heart's content. You know what I mean? And like I say, every now and then I may tune off because something didn't sit well with me. I mentioned that a little earlier in this video, and I think that sometimes that may make a lot of sense. Other times I think that maybe we should kind of try to look past things to see what comes next, because there might be a lot more that sits well with you than doesn't. If that makes sense. So yeah, I have someone. I'm not sure if it's uh, uh, Michelle or Christmas or who it is, but I do have someone that's here, and I really do appreciate that. Like I say, even though I say all this stuff about numbers, it doesn't mean I don't want people to enjoy and watch my content. Um, um, but yeah, and I guess another curious question that I have is, I mostly don't put limits on this. You know, I'm mostly am not super particular. Again, the biggest thing is kindness, and that just makes sense. We all want it. But other than that, I'm not super particular about the about the audience that I have, you know. But I'm curious whether this is your first time seeing me or you've seen me before. How would you define the type of audiences that my videos, how do I word this, should bring or would resonate with? I mean, like I say, I feel I'm very diverse. So, I mean, musically and topic wise, which is why it's hard for me to define that. But I'm curious, whether, like I say, whether you've seen the channel before or just came across it, and maybe browse around on the live streams and that as well, if you're not sure how to answer this yet. And then say, I think the kind of people that would like this video is this and this. And then, again, I know I said a couple things earlier in this video, but that might be another example where it's not like I'm just going to put it out everywhere. It's like I know somebody who would resonate or appreciate or and connect with this. And then send it to them and tell them to not be shy to comment, because I'd love to hear from them. These days, it's not that I don't socialize at all, but I don't as much as I used to. But as you can maybe tell, I am quite a social person. It's just that I'm not involved in some of the things I used to be involved in, and I'm trying to figure out what the next things are. There is a weekly thing I've been going to, but it's only for a couple more weeks. That's a specific workshop, but then there is a group that's similar, and I don't want to say it's negative stuff, but it isn't exactly a positive topic. It's more of I guess, a healing journey kind of topic, so sometimes things deep content, I guess. I think I just saw another heart, so I appreciate that. But that one, like I say, ends in 2 weeks. But then they had another one that they put on hold for a while. Celebrate. Interesting. Lots of celebrations. Michelle, is that you, or who's celebrating with me? What are we celebrating? The fact that I'm going out to something, connecting, that kind of thing, or what. But yeah, I'm hoping that they start it up again. And then it goes between two different locations. One's close to home, although with winter coming, it would depend on the weather unless I got a ride. And then the other isn't super far, but isn't as close. Um, I guess that's another question I could ask. And it's maybe a two-part question. How do you, and I might know the answer, and I've done it before probably, but how do you find, other than on YouTube or online, because I think a balance is important as much as we can have of such with the online world and the off. And some people would say the real world versus the online world. The online world is very real, and in some people's reality, it is most of their reality. And I'm not judging that, but to have that balance. So, one, how do you find your sense of community? What does that mean to you? Is the other part, and I guess that kind of maybe that's the two part to that question because I was going to say, what are some of the things that you do for a sense of community? What are some of the things that you do? Um, I don't know how to word it differently. I'm hoping this makes sense. Like maybe you're involved in some groups or clubs of some sort, hobby groups. Um, maybe you have just something you do socially in your routine, like as a routine. I mean, a lot of people are in work and school, and that's where most of their social life is, work and or school. Uh, but and we spend a lot of time there. So things like office politics, like oh you can't date someone you work with. I mean, it might be a little awkward, especially if it doesn't work out. But you're there so often. I'm not. Some people may have you know a busy life outside of work. Some people after work they go home, they relax, they socialize maybe a bit online, and that's fine with them. Everybody has different needs, different lives, right? But as long as again you're trying to find that balance as much as possible. But yeah, but when you're at a place so much like work or school, kind of makes sense that that's where you'd make your connections. I mean, you do it in school. People do it in school all the time. So what's different about work? You know what I mean? Other than that, you have a paycheck as well. Um, where I mean, since this topic is coming up, if someone was to say, "What are your thoughts?" I know this is why people don't maybe don't comment because I'll cover it. I'll get to it eventually. No, but still, you can still comment. People will say, "What are your thoughts on dating a boss?" I think I would not recommend that. Um, I think I would not recommend like that's your job. More on the line. Uh, it would create a different kind of gossip, whereas the first one hopefully would be a more of a, oh, I'm happy for them. Hopefully this doesn't turn awkward for them. They find ways to make it work, whatever. Because, you know, but if you work in different departments, whatever, Anyway, but you know, maybe a boss in different departments. That's not. But then again, they're probably connected to them, and you might affect your promotion. It's not. I really wouldn't recommend it. Basically, is what I'm saying. Um, Even though if you have a really cool, nice, hot boss, it might be appealing. I wouldn't recommend it. See what I mean about being diverse? I didn't even intend to talk about that in this, but there you have it. There's my opinion on it. Is there something else you'd like my opinion about? That's another question. So there's all kinds of questions floating around in this podcast, and hopefully one or two of them, you might want to answer, or all of them. Whichever suits your fancy. I'm here to chat and answer and all that good stuff. I'm just going to look at something here, take a bit of a speaking break. It was a very brief one because something I read made me think of something. You're like, you're celebrating. Oh, good, he's talking again. I don't like that awkward silence. You could have been clicking and clacking on your keyboard, either cell phone or. But anyway, um, a message that came from someone that I know who I think she herself has ADHD, and her daughter, at least one of her daughters does, who's in her 20s, I believe. Um, with ADHD, you can certainly hyperfocus. I know that to be true. But she said something about how I have good attention to detail or eye for detail with some things, but other and some I don't. And I don't want to say that I'm sensitive or I easily take offense to things, but I slightly did take offense to that. It's like, because I feel like it's very much how I am with most things. I mean, sure, when you're watching certain videos or listening to songs or whatever, sometimes you're kind of gloss past certain things and just kind of go with the flow. And that's good, I think, a lot of times. But no, most things I'm definitely. And she says your attention is in many different things at once, so there's less detail in one direction. Uh, Speaking of that band, no, I'm just kidding. I don't agree with that. I don't think, because I've spoken about a number of things in this, for instance, and I think that I've been pretty detailed about each of them. I would be more detailed if there was conversation happening. One can only have so many thoughts about certain things, right? So, um, I guess I do things that don't word in my life, James. Like, well, that, but you chose for it to. But no, I'm trying to do this in a way where it's not bad. And there has been someone, I don't know, see, because when it just says a number and they're not commenting, I don't know if it's the same person or not, but there has been somebody at the top for about 5 or 10 minutes at a time, more than once. And some may say that shouldn't be unusual on YouTube, but there's so much on YouTube, and I've very much seen the opposite of that sometimes too. I don't get it. They usually don't say, but I certainly like that I'm seeing that. I really do. Anything else from this message to maybe touch on in here? What I mean by this is I can share my own experiences again because I don't know your exact experience. Okay, I think she's talking about the other thing we were talking about there. Have coaching where goes to write and research for clients, and I can do all that stuff and say I have a business. Let me just preview read this for a moment before I read it out. Or at least skim it. Okay, I think I'll read some of this at least. So this friend is talking about business, and she says, "What I mean by this is I can share my own experience again because I don't know your exact experience. I have products I make. I have coaching. It looks like we lost both views. Weird. I have coaching. Um, I have articles, and it's just I don't know. I was doing this when I saw it. I was curious about it, and it could be interesting to talk about. 43. To write for clients, and I can do all that. I don't always read out loud, but sometimes it's easier to process it that way, or thoughts in general. Anyway, and say I have a business, and she does have a business, and the fact that she's doing all that and markets is why she has a successful one. She doesn't feel like she's as successful as I think she is, but maybe that's comparing apples to oranges, to use a weird phrase. Just like not to mention, and then let's mention it. Or I saw a comment that said, "Oh, he's so cute and adorable, not to mention huggable." And I mean, she laughed about this, huggable and handsome. I was like, those are practically different words saying the same thing, girl. There's also the military, and you can tell me with this too. But since I want to expand on this and leave, I'm not saying who it is. So, oh wow. So think planning things in 4 months, then a year, and then 5 years. That's nice to break it down because some people say, "Where do you see yourself in 5 years?" I don't even know where I see myself next week. Sometimes, I mean, that's how it feels, right? Um, I know where I'd like to see myself, but getting there is not always easy. Chapstick if you're curious, chapstick if you're not. Somebody might be, whether it's somebody I'm familiar with or not, might be seriously tuning in and then having to go for a bit, do something at work or whatever, and then coming back in or whatever. And maybe they just feel like they can't sit down and commit to a chat right now. So, um, she says, like me, I like to be in the flow and just do what feels good right now. And that's certainly not uncommon. I think that's like most people, to be honest. Uh, and that could be considered being in the present, which I always say is ever changing. I don't know. I think it's mostly a good thing to do that, but I think it's maybe not always. I don't know. Thoughts, comments, concerns? um, it was great for the time, but now it's time for me to be strategic about my growth. I relate to that. I relate to that. I just don't know how to do it. Other than what I'm already doing, which is I mostly feel like trying my best. Because first of all, that's just the way I am. I'm always trying my best. And like I know that I'm always, trying or making effort, keeping my eyes open for opportunities. So I think that even though sometimes I might not have a lot to show for it, I think that it's obvious that I'm trying my best. Other ways I've thought of that is, well, I must be because that's what I'm doing. That's what's happening. Or you could say it's happening as it's meant to be because it is. But every now and then I wonder if I could be doing more in some areas. I don't know what that would look like. I don't know how to do it, and there's no guarantee, which is the uncomfortable part, right? Especially when you really feel like you need them. But um, I wouldn't necessarily say that hinders me, or at least not initially. So I have no idea what making a financial plan would look like. I don't think I'm there yet. Holding a strong vision and holding it. Um, Although that one of the videos that I watched before this, it said something about, oh, we always feel like we're holding on to things, and can't remember what she said about that at the moment, but I can get back to you on it perhaps. I think that it's almost too obvious a question to, as I'm probably nearly wrapping this up, say, what did you think of this video? I mean, it's okay to ask it, I guess, but I think most people, if they have thoughts, they'll say them. And again, I just hope that they're kind and loving and, what they want it said to them. Everybody's different, but, and I don't want to be kind of drawing on that point too much, but it is important. I think it is. And it's all that I will give attention to for the most part. You know, sure, I might stand up for myself and stand my ground a little bit if need be. But I really don't want confrontation. Confrontation. I really don't want disrespect. I mean, nobody wants that. Nobody deserves. I mean, maybe some people do deserve it, but I am not one of them. You know what I mean? But yeah. But I mean, so I'll ask, what did you think of this video? I mean, again, I really think most people they would say, if they. But some people might just think, yeah, it's true. If I didn't ask, it's true. Some people might just think, okay, I'm just watching, I'm listening, I'm watching, I'm listening. Okay, it's done. What's next then? And I see videos sometimes online actually, and I'm not saying we should do this all the time. And sometimes we're just not in the right headspace, or sometimes, you know, other distractions are important or whatever it is. But it's something else I think I want to do more of at times is after watching something, maybe I could even say after posting something, but I'm usually mostly, if not fully, content with what I post. But after watching something, especially something that I really wanted to try and get something from, like really wanted to, you know, a lot of times we're looking for answers for things, a lot of us are, or we're looking for a certain type of um, gratification, whatever it is. And I think we should ask ourselves after watching something, perhaps, did I get that? If not, is there potential that I could have? And how? Is there, do I still feel the need? Is there things I should focus on and things I shouldn't connected to it? And be curious to know what you tell yourself. Tell it to me. Because that's the thing. Yeah, that's the other thing is like if I didn't ask what you thought, some people might just kind of, whether they're in privacy or not, they might just kind of think to, like whether they've got other people around them or they're just them, they might kind of think, oh, well, that's interesting. Like they might just speak their thoughts out loud to themselves or in their head, but not actually write them. Even though that seems like a very obvious thing to do. They both are, to be honest. They're both very natural. And we all do it probably at various times. So, but I can't hear or I can't read your mind or hear what you're thinking or saying unless you put it. So, yeah, just think of that. So that said, I think I'm going to do my next things I'm going to do. Really look like somebody was like some the person that was sticking around. They were obviously getting something from this. Hopefully, good. Hopefully, they were enjoying it, and things were resonating. But it doesn't look like you're still here. There was also, interestingly, yeah, some of those corner reactions happening. Mostly, what I saw was the celebrate one, and I'm, that's interesting to me. I know I tried to ask, and maybe they wanted to say, but they couldn't figure out how to put it into words, or they were just multitasking and too busy in their environment or whatever. But it reminds me of someone I've been thinking about a little bit this morning. Excuse me. And even though maybe I did have a good kind of wrap up moment there a few minutes ago, when I burped, no, just kidding. There might be, which I don't think I do very often in videos, oddly. I'll have to start doing it more. No, just kidding. It kind of fits with that other thing I was just speaking about too. Again, I don't know if it's necessarily always important to do it. And I know when I used to have weekly meetings with my friend, weekly sessions, and she used to ask, "What are this week's celebrations?" I sometimes struggled to think them up easier than other times. This week is only on Tuesday, so I mean it's going all right. But I don't know if there's anything I would say we're celebrating. But as far as this podcast itself, not to toot my own bugle, but I feel like I have expressed myself. I mean, again, I don't want to put words in people's mouths, but I especially with that celebration thing. I mean, it's not my birthday yet, with that celebration thing, it kind of inspired me to do it. It had me curious, what were they thinking I should celebrate? What do I think I should celebrate? What are the angels saying? Kind of thing. But I think the fact that I put a lot of great thoughts in this video yet again, that you know, I am willing to be here for other people. It'd be a lie to say that it's not partly for my own needs, and that's probably the case with a lot of people. But it's also, what do they want to talk about? What do they want to be watching and seeing and hearing? And what do they, what resonates with them? So I think celebrating that maybe that's a bit of a big word for it, but celebrating that I am there for my community as much as I can, as much as I can only do as much as I can. If people are noticing it, great. If they're not, what can one do, right? I mentioned a couple thoughts on that earlier in the video. I think we'll leave it at that. And hello. but but yeah, so it's kind of like yeah. I guess those would be the two main things. If I'd done music, I'd say I did music. Lately, I only kind of like to do it when I'm performing. And that, like I say, not out very often. I don't do bars, I don't drive. I'm not getting the opportunities very often as much as I is there. There's lots of musicians around in the city that travel in. Many of them get multiple opportunities. They're famous. Good for them, but this is where the jealousy comes in a little bit because it's like, well, what about me though? I'm as worthy, or mostly. So if you have song requests, feel free to put them because this is where I do them on YouTube here. So, and I don't think that we should only want to hear the originals of any song. I mean, I wonder sometimes. I mean, it's a bit of a hard question sometimes. It's true, but you don't have to pick just one either. But I wonder if when I ask that, sometimes people think, "Oh, I like that song, and I like the video, and I like the original. I'm just gonna go listen to that." I hope you don't do that, though. I know I'm saying this almost an hour in, but I hope you don't do that because I'd love to do a cover for you. And with the new instrument that I have, it and some of the features of it, it could be a kind of unique cover. So, and I personally love discovering that kind of stuff. I used to more often, but I still do. So, anyway, I think we'll wrap this up now. Take care. Bye for now.